Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human Gina. Thank you for coming back if you are returning, and if you are a first time listener, I appreciate that very much too. And these can run a little long. My initial intention was 20 to 35 minutes, and it is obviously taken on its own life, and it has gone much longer. So I'm trying to be mindful of that. However, I also don't want to curb what's happening. So, it's something that I have to kind of let be to some degree. So, anyway, this is another interesting morning. It's actually just afternoon now, and I've been having, as I said in the last few episodes, I've been having a lot of intuitive hits, and I'm thinking back on several of the readings that I've had over the last few months, talking about how in the near future, and time is irrelevant in the universe. I mean, a tarot reader can say this is going to happen in a month, and it has no bearing on when it actually happens. It may be a current energy or a growing energy, and tarot readings are based off of current energy. So if an energy is present, that informs the tarot reader of what's coming through. And time frames, I'm sure, are possible to predict to some degree based on the frequency or the weight or the um, the strength of the energy. And this is something I'm still learning about, so forgive me if I sound a little bit ignorant, but the energy has everything to do with how the tarot reader is informed. So current energies are basically what's read. So what's in the our energy fields now is what is leading or directing or informing the tarot readers. So when they say I'm reading, this is current energy, so this is what could happen if the energy that remains that's here remains, so that this trajectory is possible based on current energy. So uh, when I say that, well, the reason I'm saying that is because they can talk about time frames and anything. There's so many variables including our free will, which can change everything as well. But anyway, um, a few readings have talked about how I would, in the near future, begin to have more downloads. And basically, downloads are intuitive hits. They are gifts of information from the universe, and it's really interesting how I've been talking about this so much lately, talking about intuitive hits and how we become more intuitive by clearing our emotional palettes, by removing emotional baggage, by becoming a clearer channel for the universe to speak to us. And this is done in downloads, meaning I think I described it this way a couple of times, that when I sleep, and this has been told to me many times, that when you sleep is when you receive downloads. So I wake up in the morning with a new idea, and that is the result of that download, which basically it results in an intuitive hit. So my intuition or my channel to the universe or the spirit world is what brings in that information. And how I've talked many times. I did a whole podcast about clearing emotional baggage. I speak about it probably in every one of my episodes. Is remaining or gaining clarity in your body by removing emotional debris, and the gift of clarity of mind, heart, and body alignment is what you get. So you begin to know that you begin to know first who you are, and in that knowing who you are, you begin to appreciate that, and that cultivates self-love. And that self-love helps you to understand how we are all the same. So I have to love others as I love myself. And that starts to cultivate unconditional love, which is the elevating energy or frequency that allows us to evolve as souls. So love is the frequency that elevates us. I think I've said that a few times, and it's in my, it's probably everywhere that I've touched. But so this is what I've come to understand through my experience of this, of going through a traumatic loss, basically, of my relationship, and then going through my healing, and then coming out on the other end with this new understanding that I am not just this body having a human experience. I am a light being, basically, in a body having a human experience. So I was able to really understand the duality of our existence, which I've always had a remedial understanding, meaning I didn't understand why I knew it, but I just knew it, that I was a dual being. I've always kind of known this. And so after these experiences, this became very clear to me that I was kind of designed to know this and eventually come to this time in my life where I can speak about it with some intelligence. So I am being told I'm going to be having these downloads, and I have. I did. I think I averaged one. I think my stats on my podcast platform said I averaged 1.3 episodes a month, and for a while I was doing one or two a month. But in December, which was last month, I did 4 episodes because I was getting so many intuitive hits, waking up with this new information, and so I was aware of that. And you reconnect the dots back, because now I remember being told you're going to be getting a lot of downloads. So of course that, you know, translates into a lot of intuitive hits. So that is evident. That's happened. And I'm discussing this in the last few episodes, and I think every episode really about your intuition and how when you clear it, you connect with the channel that connects you to spirit or the universe, and that's how you become informed. And something really interesting has happened since I spoke to you last. Is I was looking at a reading, and I left the reading. I remembered an advertisement while I was doing the reading, because when you're on YouTube and you're looking at a channel, advertisements come in periodically and you can skip them or whatever. I skipped an advertisement, but thought to myself, I want to look at that again. Forgot about it, went out of the reading, and the next day I came up, and this is just a little example of how my spirit team guides me. And I went back into YouTube to view. I'm hooked on those reaction videos. Anyway, I was watching one or two of those, and the same reading popped up at the progress bar in the same spot where I'd watched the previous reading, which is usually not the case because it advances to the next one or the first one. And that's how I know I'm meant to watch an additional reading or pile in one video. But on this day, this same reading popped up with the progress bar where I had already viewed. So I thought that was strange. I ignored it the first time, but the second time it happened, I thought, okay, there's something here I'm missing. So I opened the reading again, and the reading opened with this advertisement that I had meant to go back to, but I'd forgotten to. And I wasn't sure right away if that's why I was meant to look at it. So I clicked on the advertisement, so it opens in a different tab. And I watched the reading partially again and realized, no, I wasn't meant to watch the reading again. I was meant to see this advertisement. So went out of the reading, went to the tab where I had opened this advertisement. And the advertisement was for Gaia TV, Gaia, Gaia TV. And it is a streaming channel, some of you may be aware of, that you can add to your Roku service or your smart TV, and you can do a free trial, and then you can buy and have this channel just like Netflix or Hulu or all the others. And I had always kind of like been aware of Gaia, but not really looked at it. And this particular advertisement, though, highlighted a series that was just starting or new to the channel, called Rewired, with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I watched the promo for it, and I just knew intuitively that I was to watch this. So I immediately went to the website. I logged in and created an account, did the free 7-day trial, and began watching this series. And there are 26 to 31 minute episodes. Very easy to digest, very clearly explained ideas, or actually research, but that's very scientific. And I watched the first 2 episodes, so that was about an hour, and turned off the TV in absolute awe of what I was witnessing. And what I was witnessing was the technical or scientific explanation for everything I've been talking about. connecting to the universe through clearing our channel, allowing these new frequencies to come in, elevating by frequency. I mean, I could probably talk for 2 straight hours about the similarities of what I talk about as a novice human having an experiential, um, recalling it experientially. So I'm having the experience and I'm telling you about the experience. He's talking about the mechanics or the science, the physiology of manifestation. He's talking about the brain, how the brain works to inform the body, and the body works to create frequencies which continue to inform the brain and change our physiology, change our body's conditioning, our thoughts conditioning from negative and victimization to positive and gratitude. And the result of this is basically changing or rewiring the way we think and the way we feel. So the brain, I'm not going to get too much into it because I'm not a technical expert, but basically what it is he's talking about the scientific biological process of manifestation, of how to change your thought patterns. And he uses meditation to do this. And of course, this highly informed me intuitively about my own meditative practices. And I almost instantaneously in my next meditation session had results that I'd never had before. So he's talking about how in a meditative state, and this is going to be very remedial because I would encourage you to go look at this. In a meditative state, if you can go beyond your prefrontal cortex or your thinking brain, the brain that you use in the 3D world, you can go into your unconscious or subconscious, and you can begin to rewire yourself. So if you are stuck in thought patterns that are negative, and those negative thought patterns, what happens over time is they inform your body kind of like habitually to expect negative thought patterns, and your body prepares itself for negativity and it downgrades your body. And then the downgrading of your body, you become more susceptible to illness and to depression and things like that. So it's a chemical response in your body that downgrades your body, and it reduces your ability of your immune system and all these other amazing things. So you're much more open and less defensive to illness and the downside of having a human body, which would be breakdown and disease and things like that. And it's because these negative thoughts are carried by lower frequencies, and these lower frequencies are the ones that break down the body. So if you imagine a sledgehammer has weight, it hits a rock, it breaks a rock apart. That's the weight of the sledgehammer. If you hit a rock with a feather, it has no negative impact. So think of lower frequencies as a sledgehammer to your body and higher frequencies as a feather. So and when you think higher frequency thoughts, which are positive thoughts. So instead of feeling like a victim, you feel victorious. Instead of feeling like you were taken advantage of, you learned a lesson. Instead of feeling disappointed, you see the purpose. You turn the negativity into a positive outlook, basically, and over time, you rewire your brain to think positively, so it becomes more of a default mode in your brain. You don't have to try anymore to think positively. And when it starts to work on default is when the rewiring is taking place, and your brain is now informing your heart, which slows down the heart's rhythms, which evens out the body's systems, which creates coherence, which is a term used in the series, in the body, which allows the body to work in sync on all levels. And this includes all of the energy chakras. So basically what he's talking about is the scientific explanation, the biological, physiological explanation of manifestation, of creating your own reality through thoughts, positive thoughts. And the way he explains this is so incredible because during meditation, if we're able to go beyond our own thoughts or beyond our physical selves, our thinking mind, which is the whole point of meditation, we go into our subconscious or our unconscious mind, I don't remember which, and we can begin, we're basically We have basically pierced the veil to the universe. And I've said this, I don't know how many times in layman's term, that when you allow when you remove this baggage, you allow these frequencies to come in and you're allowed this new information, this connection to spirit. But instead of connection to spirit, he terms it as connection to the quantum field, which is the physical or scientific description of the universe. So you are basically piercing the veil of the quantum field and you're allowing the frequencies of the universe, which is the unknown, and you are allowing it into your body. It's processed through your brain and it becomes knowledge. It becomes information that informs your body. It awakens cells. It actually awakens DNA. And I've said this, I keep marveling at the similarities, and I'm not taking credit for anything that he's doing. It's incredible what he's done. But this is what the experience that I've been having, this quantum field access that I refer to as the universe. So when I talk about going through this awakening and then realizing that I'm more than just my body and identifying more with the light being inside of me, that's what I'm talking about. The light being is the quantum field. It is the energetic frequencies that are not perceivable in the three-dimensional world. Just like that dog whistle. We can't hear the dog whistle because we don't have the access or the connection. And imagine plugging into a motherboard. If I plug into the motherboard at that frequency, I can hear that dog whistle. But if I don't have a plug into that motherboard, I can't hear it. So it's just you don't have the wiring yet in order to pick up the frequency. So this rewiring of the brain allows for that, the integration of this new wiring that receives this new information from the quantum field or the universe. And, the way that it's done, and this is kind of what promoted me. I had planned on, I just finished the last episode last night. I had planned on doing a podcast on this, and I plan on writing about it, but I had planned on just talking about what I just talked about how I believe that, or not believe, this doctor is talking about what I experienced from a scientific and biological standpoint. So basically, the result of this going beyond our thinking minds, going into our subconscious and piercing the veil to the quantum field, is when we start to receive this energy, this frequency, it starts to rewire and change us. And what it does is it causes our hearts to open, because we're now aware of the unknown around us, or the quantum field or the universe. We become open. It like naturally opens us up. So I guess like blowing air into a balloon opens up the balloon. It opens this bladder with air, and it becomes expanded, and you don't really understand how big a balloon is until you blow it up, right? So it's kind of the same idea. This energy goes into our heart, and it fills it and it opens it. And as our heart opens, it creates these new electromagnetic fields that reinform the brain to continue to think positively, to continue to release the chemical that continues to inform the heart, that continues to open the heart. And it's this cyclical thing that happens between the brain and the heart that makes us into these awakened beings, because now we're aware of so much more than just what's in front of our nose, our five senses, our 3D world. So this is what happens in the mechanism. This is the second reason, or the really what something amazing that happened during this whole thing for me was I was listening to one of the last episodes where he was talking about people in the workshops that of course he's done a lot of research. So he's had workshops where has had people come in and have their brain waves measured in different periods of wakefulness and meditation, to kind of prove his theory that if you go into these different brainwave states, and I'm not fully aware of all of them, but alpha and theta are lower brainwave states when you're in a meditative state or asleep, and your brain slows way down, and it allows the body to kind of, and then this is what happens with sleep. It allows the body to repair itself. It allows the body to do what the body's made to do. So you imagine if we're always in a stressful state out in our 3D world, and we're going, our brains kind of get trained to be in stress, and that activates the fight or flight. I've talked about this before, the fight or flight mechanism in our body, and we are in a state of acute awareness, and we are ready for anything to happen, and all of our focus is on the 3D world. So that happens when we're driving and we're late for meetings, we're late to pick up the kids, we have dinner to get dinner on the table, we have this essay to finish, we have the papers to grade, all the things that we do in the 3D world that keep us in this revved up state. So imagine that you are driving a stick shift and you are in first gear, and you step on the gas and you go beyond the RPMs of the first gear, and now it's time to shift into second gear. And you don't shift into second gear, you just keep going. So you're in first gear, but you're pedal to the metal because you got to go. So all you're doing is ramping up the RPM. So you basically were living in this ramped up RPM brain state and body state, because now the brain has taught the body to feel this stress, and the body now craves it because it's become a habit. And you don't allow the body to relax because the brain needs to relax in order to do that. That's why we meditate. So when you're no longer in this highly stressed state, well, by the way, when you're in this highly stressed state, the body never gets to repair itself. You never get the benefits of the lower brainwave states, the alpha and the theta, and your body starts to break down because it doesn't have time to repair. It doesn't get the peace and quiet and the stillness it needs to repair. So even if you think of it at a very remedial level, stress equals breakdown, and stillness equals repair. So if you're able to meditate and go beyond your thinking mind, beyond the prefrontal cortex and into the other parts, the limbic system or whatever, I don't want to say anything wrong, but into the other parts of the brain that promote this activity of healing in the body, you are superseding your body's natural mechanisms to heal and remain healthy. So, stress equals disease, stillness equals health. Look at it that way. And I've talked about this so many times without really this technical understanding. So I'm amazed at this technical connection to this experiential thing I've been talking about. So anyway, what happens basically when you get into these lower brainwave states, and he talks about theta and then gamma. This is just so fascinating. I would really, really encourage anyone to listen to this, that you basically activate a mechanism in the brain that sends new chemicals out that allow for these states of euphoria, or this how does he refer to it? The transcendental moments, he calls it, where we can pierce the veil of the universe. I'm looking at my notes because I had to write some notes, or the quantum field, and how this is done. There's a couple of ways. He talks about a breathing technique when you're meditating. And this breathing technique allows it basically puts pressure, mechanical pressure on the pineal gland. And then the crystals in the pineal gland, which are actual crystals. And if we know anything about crystals, we know that crystal properties are magnetic. And they use crystals in watches. They use them in, I don't know what else, but crystals are known to hold residual energy or frequency, and they're used mechanically. So the pineal gland has these little crystals in it, these microcrystals, and when these crystals are when there's pressure put on them, they release this chemical, which allows for this transcendental moment, or this piercing of the veil. Basically, it allows the brain to expand to the universe, the frequencies of the universe. So this is so fascinating. And it's funny, I had trouble getting my microphone connected. It took me about 40 minutes to get going this morning, which normally I just plug it in and go. I was so excited. I don't even know what I would have said. And I believe that was my spirit team helping me to relax before I got on the mic. So this mechanism is the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is known as the third eye. It's behind the forehead, and there's all kinds of information about Egyptian symbols and how they resemble the area of the brain where the pineal gland is, and how there's just such a cosmic, beautiful, synchronistic connection to everything, the body, the mind, frequency, all of it. It's all one. We're all energy. We're all matter and wave. It's all the same. But anyway, so this pineal gland, once it's mechanically activated or pressure put on it, releases this enzyme or this, whatever it's called, this chemical. So he's talking about, how do you put mechanical pressure on the pineal gland? I mean, how do you do that? You can't stick your finger in your head and, so this is, I'm sure, is an ancient practice. And again, nothing is new. We're just discovering in modern times how to connect it with what we, in a way that we can resonate with. Oh my God. I'm working on an article called Resonate because there's a whole other part of this. But anyway, there is, he highlights a meditative practice where you focus on the pineal gland in your mind, and you use a breathing technique that actually pushes the spinal fluid from the bottom of the body up the spinal column into the brain and puts pressure on the pineal gland. And this practice activates the pineal gland and therefore activates this chemical reaction and this access to the universe or the quantum field. It is mind-blowing, but it ties in exactly with everything I've been going through. And it's almost like, opening a book and seeing it written about you. Like I'm thinking, is anyone else getting this too? I mean, it's just like this amazing thing. Sorry, my voice went so high, but it's just this amazing resonance with what he was talking about. And that resonance is frequency. So the frequency of what he's talking about matches the frequency in my body. Therefore, it connects. That's what resonation is. It's connecting these two frequencies. So I'm resonating with this information. It's coming into my body and reinforming what I know about what I've gone through. I wasn't sure how I was going to articulate this at all. I made a bunch of notes that I have not even looked at, except for to look at the name of the quantum field, because I know better. When I look at notes, when I write notes, I never need them. It's just really, it's me being insecure about knowing what to say when my body knows what to say. So basically, the pineal gland in this section of the brain is the input mechanism. So it takes in these frequencies from the quantum field. And it goes through a process in this part of the brain, and I don't remember what it's called, that includes the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland, which is higher in your brain or behind your optic nerves, I think, or somewhere in the same vicinity, actually, is the output mechanism. So just imagine, and this was described this way, like a TV antenna captures frequencies from wherever they come from, these radio frequencies, or are they called radio when they come in for television? I'm not sure. But these antennas are designed to bring in these frequencies from these towers or these places that emit it. They capture these frequencies and then they transduce these frequencies into images on our television. And that's how it was explained in this. That didn't come from me. So this transduction, or this radio receiver, basically this pineal gland receives these frequencies, and then they're processed through the brain. And I don't understand how this works. I'm not even going to try. But the output mechanism is the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is what sends these frequencies into the body, I guess. And what this can promote or provoke even is lucid dreams and imagery. So you're seeing imagery. So if you have lucid dreams, you are seeing images of things that are not within your three-dimensional reality. You are seeing images from the quantum field. This is information that comes in on these frequencies that's transduced by the pituitary gland and that mechanism that ends with the pituitary. The pituitary puts it in the body or the brain, and we can now see when we're in these lucid states, we can see images that are sent to us from the quantum field or the universe. And I'm not a big lucid dreamer. I have had a couple, but I know many people have lucid dreams, and this is the technical scientific explanation of lucid dreams. I mean, that is just amazing. I mean, it's just amazing. So this transducer, this pineal gland, is this receptor for this, and the pituitary gland is the output mechanism, is how it was put. So basically, this allows us to tap into the wisdom of the universe. And I've said this how many times, that this is where wisdom comes from. It's where genius comes from. So I'm talking about it as a remedial uh, experiencer of it. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm just telling you what happened to me. So this is basically plugging in or resonating all the technical aspects of what I've gone through. And again, it is telling you how to do it in meditation. He has lots of tips and tricks, and he does, sell his meditations and things like that, which I give him yay credit for, because he's monetized this incredible thing. But he's telling us how to manifest from a scientific standpoint. And it is fascinating. So the other reason why I connected so deeply with this was one other, because he was talking about how people during these meditative states, these alpha and theta and then gamma brainwave states, which is where all the energies in the brain, where the prefrontal cortex is turned off. So the thinking mind is off, it is out of commission. And the parts of the brain that are connected to the quantum field are working to integrate this knowing or these wisdoms or this frequency into the body. And while as it's doing this, it is recalibrating the energetic field inside the body. And this includes all the chakras. So all the chakras through your body, and I believe there's 8. One stands on top above your head. And it basically works to align the energy in all of the energy centers, all of the brains in the body, all of the mechanisms in the body. And it starts with the heart. So the brain tells the heart that there's no fight or flight issue. It doesn't have to be on high alert, because that's what the lower brain waves allow. The higher brain waves are stress. The lower brain waves allow the stillness that starts to inform the heart that you can slow down now. You're not in this high stress state, because we teach our hearts to beat faster than it needs to, because it's always ready for anything. And that's the danger of being in this fight or flight or stressed out mindset all the time, is you teach your body that only focus on the 3D because something bad might happen. So it takes all the energy, because what he says, and I absolutely believe this throughout these series, is what you focus on is where your energy goes. And that really struck me very deeply. So when you focus only on 3D elements or aspects, all of your energy goes there. And there's no energy left for your body to do what your body naturally does. And not only what it naturally does, what it's naturally capable of, which is basically superhuman. So we're by not understanding the need for stillness in our brains, which translates to stillness in our heart, which translates to a recalibration of our body's energy, aligning everything. That coherence in our body now informs our body and awakens all of its abilities. So my immune system now is at optimum levels, because it is in alignment, or it is coherent with the rest of my body's systems. So when a dangerous enemy comes into my body, a virus or an illness or a disease, my immune system can now fight it without any issue. So this alignment, this coherence, and I love that word, he uses it throughout this, the coherence of our brain and our heart and our body's energy basically recalibrates us it resets us even after trauma. And this is something that really got my attention. So say you have a traumatic experience at childhood where you were sexually abused, which happened to me, or you are physically abused by a husband or a father or someone, doesn't have to be male. And this trauma is an imprint on your energy, and it stays with you. It dictates your life, because then fears arise to protect the insecurities caused by the trauma, and we live our lives with one half of ourselves dead. So it resets and it recalibrates everything. So even traumas are basically erased. And what was so fascinating was he had all of these subjects that came in, and they had these different ailments. And some were child onset diseases, things that they've had all their lives, that were eliminated by this disengagement to the thinking mind and the stressed life. The lower brain waves, which allow the body to relax and the systems to align, now allows the body to fight like a friggin' warrior. And it not only fights disease, but it resets your brain, and it allows you to disconnect from the resonance of trauma, because the resonance of trauma is a lower frequency feeling or experience. So I've said this many times, when you rise in frequency, you drop the weight of the lower frequencies. I didn't really understand what I was saying, but that's what I mean. He put it into scientific terms. The lower frequencies don't carry the higher frequency attributes or benefits or thoughts. You cannot think positively in a lower frequency. So when you beat yourself up for not thinking positively, it is really a habit that you conditioned your body for. It's not your fault. It's a subconscious thing, but now you have the power and the means and the information to undo all that. So this is basically, again, it is a spiritual awakening from a scientific perspective. And so you're healing your body now. And then they had a woman who suffered from eczema, I think it was, and 3 days after this meditative workshop, it was gone. And one of the things that got my attention was he mentioned in one of the episodes that it can cure all these different things, and he mentioned vertigo, and vertigo happens to be something that I suffer from. And I've had some very difficult experiences with it, one where I ended up in the emergency room because I didn't know what was happening, and another where I was getting my hair colored, and I ended up with an episode that I had to sit with color in my hair. This is funny to think about now. For 45 minutes with my eyes closed because the world was spinning so dramatically, white as a sheet, clammy, and I had to wait for my husband to come pick me up. And I ended up on the couch for 2 days because I couldn't get my bearings. It doesn't happen often, but I'm very aware of it. And because I'm so aware of it, it becomes a mechanism of fear, or it creates fear in my body to be in a situation that might trigger this vertigo. See what I'm talking about? So it limits me because I'm worried about an outcome that is not even really, and he says this before, we condition our brains to expect the worst outcome. So we feel the result of that outcome in our body before it even happens. So we basically create it. So, and this had something to do with my fear of getting on an airplane, because vertigo, it's not the most comfortable place to be when when you're going into, when the plane takes off, I always worry, okay, am I going to get dizzy? Again, another limiting belief caused by conditioning, caused by negative thoughts, which just basically causes a habit in our body, and our body feels the negativity of these thoughts without us experiencing it. This is the detrimental habitual effect of negative thinking. So he really got my attention when he's talking about how you can do this specific meditation that he sells, and I probably will buy, although I'm not sure. It depends on, I'm going to let it sit for a while, but basically where you energize or align all of your chakras intentionally through this practice. And by doing that, you allow the body to align completely, which heals the body, like starts to healing immediately. And then it erases trauma. It allows you to recalibrate your thoughts, because now you're open to this quantum spectrum of thought, where these were thoughts that you weren't plugged into before because you didn't have the frequency. So he's talking about vertigo, which got my attention. So of course that makes me more interested in being more intentional in my meditative practices if I'm able to reach this superhuman ability to cure myself. Okay. So that's that. But the other part of it that really got me excited was the pituitary gland. And I'm going to go back up a little bit, because this is really interesting. And this is something that, and I think I've said this before, in the last one for sure, that when something, a thought or an idea starts to follow me around, I understand that it needs to form and I need to speak about it or write about it. And what has been coming into my consciousness repeatedly lately is my pituitary gland, because I had a surgery. I had a pituitary tumor removed. I can't remember what year it was, in the early 2000s, around 2006, something like that. And I had gone to the doctor because I was lactating, and I was not a new mother. So it wasn't normal, and I didn't understand what was happening. And I mentioned this briefly when I was talking about my ex-husband, and the catalyst for me, for the 9 years basically is what it took for me to realize who this person was. This was what happened, the surgery, this pituitary surgery, which was basically a tumor on my pituitary gland that was causing my body to secrete hormones that weren't appropriate for my age. So basically what would happen is I would go into menopause very early. I would have all these other issues attached to this pituitary tumor. What had happened a few years before was I had a terrible headache that was categorized as a cluster headache, which I'd never had before. Ended up in the emergency room with this debilitating headache. I'd never experienced anything like it in my life. And basically, after the x-rays and everything, I was told that it was a tumor that had burst. And basically what had ended up happening, when I had the x-rays when I was diagnosed with pituitary tumor, the doctor said that you had a tumor that burst. And he said it likely was that headache that landed you in the hospital. That's when it happened. So I had this diagnosis of this pituitary tumor. It scared the hell out of me, of course, but I was told that it's a very common thing. And, it can be eradicated with surgery, or it can be medicated or managed with medication. And I am not a medication person. So I went to a surgeon, and I talked to this man, and he gave me, his take on what he could do. And he was just a person, very nice person, but he was not anybody I would ever allow to do surgery on me. So I went to a new doctor. I did a lot of research. I found another doctor. I went into this man's office, and he sat across from me. It was such a calm. And I thought about this so many times afterwards, and it isn't until now that I realized why. It resonated. Again, that word resonated. He was just like this being who said, "It's no big deal, Gina. We can take care of it. I've done thousands of these. It'll be eradicated. You'll never have to deal with it again." So I said, well, I was working at the time at a corporation. I had good insurance, but I could get better insurance. So I said, well, how long do I have before I can take it? Do I have some time? And he said, yes, go ahead. It was late in the year. I knew if I waited until the end of the year, I could get a new type of insurance through my work back in the day, where you can get good insurance at work. And it would cover 100% of the cost. I would only have a $100 emergency or a hospital fee. So I waited. I scheduled the surgery. I never saw the doctor again. I went in. I was prepped. I had the surgery. I came out. One of the team members came in and checked on me a couple of times. I was in the hospital overnight, I believe. And I was out. It was done. I didn't have to take medication. He eradicated the tumor. I've never gone in for a follow-up. This was years and years ago. It's just gone. And it's funny because I always thought how fortuitous it was that I was able to get this diagnosis, wait until I can change my insurance, and then not have to pay for this. I don't even know what the surgery costs. I never got a bill. I would imagine it was in the high tens, if not hundreds of $100,000. It was transsphenoidal surgery. They have to go in through the sinuses and they scoop out this tumor. Amazing. So I had this done, and I've always kind of thought of this doctor as this like being who just kind of appeared in front of me, took care of this issue, and then was gone. And I thought about it over the years, but of course I couldn't connect to anything. What can I connect that to? And then over the last few months, I'm thinking about this more. And I'm like, I said out loud a few times, because I speak to my spirit team out loud. I said, why do I feel like this pituitary surgery has something to do with my spiritual self? Why do I feel that way? And of course, this was a little while later, but actually, I think it was last week. This is so fascinating how everything is connected. I'm watching a reading on YouTube, just one I watched occasionally, and just a random reading. It's just one I was drawn to. And the reading is talking about how, as a child, now you have to remember, these are general readings. They're not for me specifically. As a child, I was examined or used for research, that something was done to me that I would end up talking about later. And I'm thinking, I'm not resonating with this. And when I don't resonate with something, I just assume it's not for me. Again, it's a general reading. It's not just for me. So it keeps talking about how I saved the reading. I'll have to look at it again, but how something was done to me, or I was used for research or experimented on. And I will be talking about that later. And I thought, what is this? I have no idea what this is. So of course I didn't resonate. I put it aside. And then I watched this series with Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about the pituitary gland, which is where I had the tumor, being the output mechanism for this quantum field frequency, this energy, this imagery. And of course, I'm not really thinking about it as I'm watching it. It just kind of seeds. It comes in. I don't know if you know what this feels like when something comes into your body and you think about it, but you don't really resonate with it. It's just like, okay, I got that. It's in there. And of course, when I went to bed last night, wasn't thinking about it at all. Slept 8.5 hours last night and woke up, sun shining in my window, imagining I'm in my new home, looking out my window anyway, I'm having a transcendental moment. And I start to get this knowing, this is what's happened to me lately. I just started to think about the dots started to connect. And I'm thinking, okay, pituitary gland, output mechanism. I've been thinking about my pituitary surgery lately. I don't know why. And then I have this reading. It all just started to take shape. And I sat up in my bed and said, holy shit. This is what this is. This is not an accident or a coincidence. That my pituitary surgery had something to do with my spiritual awakening. And of course, I'm telling myself, because whenever we feel something intuitive that is out of this world, that is extraordinary, we immediately doubt it and go, oh, you're crazy. But it didn't happen this time. I just knew that I am onto something here, and I really don't understand it completely. But I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking, okay, the reading, which was just a few days ago, about me being examined or used for research, something done to me when I was a child. And of course, I wasn't a child, I was an adult. So it didn't immediately connect. But then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I had pituitary surgery by this man who was this being, is the only way I can describe him. He was just this confident, amazing alchemist who said, Gina, don't worry, I got you. I didn't pay for the surgery because I could wait for it to happen. I could change my insurance, which was effortless. And by the way, I didn't even get charged the $100 hospital fee. They never charged me. And I didn't even realize that right away. So I discovered this tumor. I found the right doctor. It was done without basically effort or cost. And I've been freed of it ever since. So to me, that means I had divine intervention. I was guided to have that done because I was thinking for a while over the last few weeks, was that a negative thing that I had that done or a positive thing? I was telling myself and asking the universe, was that a positive thing that that tumor was removed, or did I cause a problem with my output mechanism by having that done? But as soon as I said it out loud, I knew better because look at this connection I have. And when he told me that this is one of the most common surgeries he does, I remembered that and I'm thinking, I wonder how many other people have had this done. And it immediately made me think of how I'm referred to in all of these readings. And there's hundreds of them at this point. And I don't talk about this. I don't think I've ever mentioned this before. And I think in the last episode, I did refer to myself as an empath, which is how I'm referred to in these readings. And I have connected or embraced that. But I'm also referred to as a light worker, a star seed. And there are many, many millions of star seeds on the earth. And I believe we are all star seeds. I said this in the last episode. But some of us are light workers. And basically, what we do is we plan a life. We strategize a life where we come here, and for me, I've said this before, I have a dual purpose: to elevate or evolve personally and to elevate or evolve the frequency of the earth. And I said this in the last episode. So since that last episode, I'm introduced to this Gaia series called Rewired by Dr. Joe Dispenza that basically highlights my whole journey from a scientific standpoint, and then accentuates in the very last episodes the pituitary gland and how it is the output mechanism for this pineal gland, which brings in these frequencies from the quantum field or the universe. So, of course, I'm sitting awake and bolt up and right in my bed thinking, holy crap, this is not coincidental. This is following me around because I'm meant to put these pieces together, the fragments of this together to create a picture. So of course, what I'm thinking now, and this what's developing today as I'm getting ready to talk about this to you guys, is I wonder if this is a light worker thing, that we come to Earth as light workers. So we are aliens from another star system. And I've been actually told what star system or planet that I'm from. And you can laugh if you want. It's okay. I keep remembering the card that comes up in the readings that says you're not for everyone. That's okay. But we're all from different star systems. And anyway, light workers are star seeds that come to Earth to help elevate Earth. So we are not necessarily in the healing arts. We don't have to be energy healers or, like what I'm doing, which is basically speaking about my experience, sharing my light, sharing my wisdom, sharing my perceptions of life as a light being in a human body, which is basically what I'm talking about in the title of my work, which is Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. So it's not, you don't have to be in the healing arts. It's just living your life as an illuminated or awakened being. So my soul's journey was to awaken at a certain point. And yeah, if you want my opinion, it's late. I would have loved to awaken a lot earlier, but this is when I'm to awaken. So I'm having all these experiences. I'm learning all these things. I'm getting all these intuitive hits, these downloads, and I'm getting this information that I am to share on this very convenient microphone. And this one I will write about extensively. So I am here in the earth plane as a light worker. And if you research light worker, you will see expansive information about light workers. And you may be one yourself. I don't really know. I did not, and this is something that I do that maybe inhibits my ability to embrace myself more freely, and something I need to work on, is when I hear something kind of outrageous, I believe it, but I don't necessarily know that it's me. It's just like somebody telling you that you are, psychic. Well, I don't really know. I don't really know what that means. And you very well could be psychic and just don't understand that what you're feeling is psychic. You're having psychic events. And this is something that I've learned myself. I've been told that I have a psychic connection to my future twin flame, my soulmate. And that and this happened to me a few days ago. I was standing in my kitchen. I had a wonderful day. And I started to feel this sadness creep up inside of me. I'm like, and I said to myself, and I told you this, guys, many times before, when I start to have a feeling that seems odd, I step back and I pay attention. And I said to myself, what is this? It doesn't feel like it's my feeling. Where is this coming from? And I sat with it for probably 2 or 3 minutes and it was gone. And I remember later in that evening, I sat down and I thought, oh, that was really brief. I wonder what that was. And of course, the following day, I have a reading where I'm told this psychic connection can give you feelings of each other. You can sense each other's feelings. So it said specifically, when you feel something that doesn't feel like it's yours, you are feeling his feelings. So I would never say that's a psychic connection. I would just say I felt sad for a few minutes and I don't know why. So I didn't embrace the fact that I'm psychic, but apparently I am. So you know what I mean? Like when you look at it, like from your when you have your logical mind is very strong, and I have a very strong left and right brain. So my logical mind is very strong, and my illogical mind, or my fantasy mind, or my ability to understand ethereal concepts comes from my other side of my brain. So I'm thinking, I might be psychic, but I don't know what that means. So, but yes, I'm psychic. Okay. Well, being a light worker, I kind of treated the same way. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine, but I'm here just to do the best I can to evolve and grow. That's why I'm here. I don't need to label it, I guess. But I guess it's useful now to label it, because what started to come up into my consciousness from my intuition was, I wonder if this surgery had something to do with me being more receptive or more able to bring this information into my body. And I started to think, well, I wonder, do other light workers know this, or have other light workers, people who identify as a light worker, who maybe don't yet, but eventually will, have they also had this surgery? I remember the doctor saying, this is very common. I've done thousands of these. I'm sorry, over 1,000, I think is what he said. So it got me wondering. And of course, I've learned to not analyze too much, because when the analytical mind comes in, it immediately limits you. It's very useful, but it can limit the ethereal conceptual side of my brain, the part that knows without knowing. Do you know what I'm saying? That intuitive part. So I have this mechanism, and I'm wondering if this mechanism was enhanced by the removal of this tumor. And did that allow me to have a clearer channel to the quantum field? And I don't know this, and this is, again, I'll feel this is something that if it stays with me, and I'll give you an example of staying with me. I had a very funny experience during the summer when I was getting used to all these new attributes in my body, this new connection to spirit, because I was learning that I had this deep, strong communication with the spirit realm, my spirit team particularly. And there are other beings too. There are archangels and deities and aliens. They're all out there. And if they have a benevolent or a loving intention in my life, I welcome their messages. That's how I speak to them. I don't want anything negative. I'm not going to be a conduit for something else. So I'm getting used to this, and I'm learning about this multidimensional existence. So I'm learning that I exist not on a linear line of time. I exist in an infinite eternal moment. So if I'm in an infinite eternal moment, there's never a past or a future. So this is how you start to kind of assimilate or integrate the knowing that comes from the other realm. So my body is just knowing this. Okay, if I'm this multidimensional being, there's no time. then I'm existing everywhere at the same time. So it's likely I have other lifetimes going on at the same time this is. And I was told in a reading that one of my lifetimes was of and you're going to laugh. Well, go ahead and laugh. I guess it's okay. Was I basically am an elemental. And if you have ever seen the movie with Vin Diesel, uh, the Riddick Chronicles, which is, again, sci-fi movies are just, I love them. There's a character called an elemental, and basically they float. They're not like fully 3D, which makes perfect sense because they're made of a higher frequency. And they can, move around without touching the ground. They don't fly necessarily, but they can float. So I was described as an elemental who is in charge of caring for the earth and for the plants and the trees and the animals. And I'm kind of like a fairy that in another life, that's what I'm doing. And of course, it makes perfect sense because all of the me's who are existing in this multi-dimensional reality are related. So of course, in this reality, I have a fondness or a very deep resonant connection with the earth. And I talk about the earth all the time, with the trees, with the ground, with the air and the animals. I mean, it's funny because animals have a really intense comfortability with me, and this is something that is more new. I'll give you an example. I was at my daughter's. This was a few years ago, and she has a dog. Her friend's dog was visiting, and the dogs were, her dog was sitting with her on the couch. The other dog was walking around and jumped up on the couch and laid next to me and put his body against mine where I could put my arm on him and pet him. And my daughter looked at me and said, "What the hell? Like, that dog does not do that." And I said out loud, "Well, this is Oreo. Oreo's coming to visit me." Oreo was a dog who passed away, who's one of my spirit guides. I talked about that. So in my mind, it was my dog Oreo coming to visit me, and he does that sometimes in the form of another animal. So I believe that to be the case, but it happens a lot where I'll be out and an animal will just find his way to me. Another one happened on a bridge when I was at the park. A lady was walking by with her older golden retriever, and the dog walked past me and then stopped, turned around, and forced her back to connect with me. And I was telling my sister about this. What had happened is this beautiful older dog laid her head on my leg and just allowed me to pet her for a full minute. And I just kept saying to her, "It's okay. It's okay." Oh my God, it makes me tear up. I just said to her, "It's okay. You're beautiful. It's okay." And the woman started to tell me, oh, forgive me. This is another thing. I'm very emotional. The woman started to tell me how she rescued this dog from a puppy mill, and how this dog, all she did was have puppies. And since she rescued her from this company that rescues dogs from puppy mills, this dog, as she said it this way, she's living her best life. And I could feel that from this beautiful dog. And this dog just spent this like full 2 minutes with me in this just embrace. Oh my goodness. So anyway, my point is this resonance with nature and with animals is part of who I am, and it is who I am in all dimensions. Is what I believe, what I am coming to understand. The more you understand the quantum field, as Dr. Dispenza describes it, or the universe as I describe it, the more you understand all of this. It just becomes knowing in your body. These are the frequencies coming in, apparently through the pineal and out through the pituitary, that inform the body, awaken dormancies in the body, create more DNA strands, which makes us evolved beings. This is how it works. This is the physiology of a spiritual awakening. So, did this pituitary surgery have something to do with making me more connected, more receptive to this frequency of the quantum field? And I would really be curious to know if there is anyone out there who identifies as a light worker or even a starseed who's had a pituitary tumor removed. Because I can't even tell you the excitement that was in my body when this knowing kind of came to the surface. I was not containable. I was walking around my house like a crazy person, thinking, could this be real? And of course, the energy behind this, again, the frequency that informed me of this is in my body. And when it comes into my consciousness, of course, it's energized, which tells me, yes, this is not a fleeting thought. Oh, and okay, let me go back. I started to talk about back when I was getting used to these new elements of my being. I took a walk, and I was talking about when something follows me around for a little while, at least a day or two, if 3 or more, I need to talk about it or write about it or learn more about it. And actually, that's one of the similar readings. I was encouraged to study something. And I'm like, well, study what? Well, of course, study this. This is what was coming. I did a personal reading for myself yesterday, which I do once a week. It said the same thing. It's time you're being encouraged to study or go to school to learn something. And of course, it's this. So this is my spirit team or the universe guiding me through the messages, through the synchronistic happenings in my life, which is the advent of this advertisement for Gaia, led back to the advertisement, led to open it, which now I intuitively know not to ignore. And of course, I find this incredible series called Rewired, and it is informing me of all of these things that I know intuitively. Now I can put the physiology into it. I can put the scientific knowing in my body, and it strengthens everything. So I'm talking about being followed around by an idea. This was during the summer when I'm just getting used to all this access that I have. And I took my regular walk, which takes 45 minutes. And I'm taking the walk. And as I'm walking, I'm thinking of all these things. I'm kind of a lot lost in my thoughts, thinking of all these things that are going on. And I got home and was so far off into my, lost in the clouds that I didn't remember walking the path that I normally walked. And I looked at the time and I said, how did I get back here when I didn't walk? Like I had this moment and I was laughing at myself and I said out loud, did I slip into another dimension because I don't remember walking? Or am I just like, didn't remember walking? And I was convinced for like a full hour that I must have slipped into another dimension. And of course, after that hour passed, days passed, it never came into my consciousness again. So I forgot about it. So of course I was having a moment where something was happening that wasn't. But when I have a thought like that, and this one was the pituitary gland, it was just on my mind out of nowhere. I'm literally more than 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, I had the surgery. Why am I thinking about it? And then I'm thinking about it. And then I and then I led to this, anyway. So the idea staying and coming up into my consciousness and encouraging me to explore it tells me it's something I need to explore, just like the last 3 episodes that I've done. So was my pituitary surgery, the transsphenoidal surgery that removed a tumor from my pituitary gland, did it have anything to do with my spiritual access? And all I can tell you is I feel in my body that absolutely it did. And I just wonder if there's anyone else out there who has had the same experience. And it's funny, I'm thinking of something that I guess is still staying with me, that I've been told that I will share a birthmark with my future soulmate. And I wonder if this is the birthmark. I don't know anything. And I will one day know, but I don't know now. But that is that's what's in my body. And again, this frequency, it is. I mean, you can use the word magic. It's extraordinary. It is just. This is where an ordinary, humble human being who has lived her life in search of self-love, who finally stumbled upon it, not by accident, who is now awakened to all of this other realm. I mean, this is what it is all about. It is going beyond our thinking mind, beyond our human selves, beyond our three-dimensional sensory experience, and into our illuminated, ethereal, spiritual selves, our souls, our true selves. And I've talked about this many times. When you live from your true self, from this ethereal being, from this access or this perspective of your soul, you see everything, not just what's in front of your nose. So you're not led around by your stress, by the ramped up RPMs of the life that you're living, which disallows you to connect with the stillness inside of you, which is your soul. So it makes so much sense that when we're able to meditate, and of course now I'm looking at meditation completely differently. When we're able to meditate and lower our brain waves into those lower alpha and theta and even gamma brainwave patterns, we gain access to pierce the veil to the quantum field. So if that is not motivation to slow your life the fuck down and get out of all of the commitments that you don't care about, and to get rid of the stuff in your body, in your house, in your world, in your life that you don't care about, that weigh you down. I'm sorry for yelling, my God. If that is not motivation enough, I don't know what is. Please check out this series. And it may not resonate with you, and I have to accept that not everyone is going to resonate with everything just because I did. And it's not good or bad, it just is what it is. So if you watch it and you're like, that was interesting, that's what it is. But for me, it resonated in a way that I can't even explain. So I just wanted to share that. I wanted to get on the mic and talk through that with you as a way to really integrate it into myself too. And I believe, my voice, it's one of the chakra centers. It's one of the higher chakra centers. The lower chakra centers or bodies or brains, as they're described in the series, are, in your lower part of the body. And as they go up in number, they go up higher into your body. They become more higher frequency. So when your gut is clear, and I refer to the gut as your solar plexus, your brain, your body's brain, when it's clear, it informs your heart to be clear. And when your heart is clear, you speak clearly. You know what I'm saying? That's your voice. And then it's just all connected. It's such a beautiful system. So I'm a complete novice. I'm a completely uneducated, humble test subject who is reporting and relaying her experience. And it is of brilliance. It is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. So I will leave you with that. And as I sit with this idea, and I'm going to write about it, and maybe I'll do some research if it stays with me to find out maybe if more people have had the same experience with me as a light worker or somebody with an intention to elevate themselves or elevate the frequency of the earth or humanity who has had this pituitary surgery as well. It is completely a theoretical hypothesis at this moment, but it's something I know in my body. So I will leave you with that, and I thank you again for listening, and I highly encourage, if you have any interest at all, if there was any resonance with you, to watch this series called Rewired on the Gaia Channel, Gaia, with Dr. Joe Dispenza. It is absolutely breathtaking. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it very much. And I wish you a wonderful day. And I wish you intensely deep clarity in your life. And I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.